Welcome back to the Melbourne Strength Culture Podcast. Number one in your hearts and number one in the charts. That's our new intro that we're going to be rolling with. Thank you to a keen listener, Brendan. But we have a special edition today with Wade Johnson coming on. He is an important figure in the development of the international arm of USAPL. So obviously USA Powerlifting has come to Australia, and there's now an Australian federation that is starting to build out. Obviously, we are part of that because we want to be part of the change that we feel is necessary here in Australia for natural powerlifting competition and also international sort of aspirations for the local lifters here. So we have Wade Johnson on answering your questions that you've given us over the last couple of weeks. What we do ask, if you are interested in competing within the USAPL Australia Federation or any of those directions, please don't be afraid to share this. We know that this can be a little bit worrisome when new federations are coming up and there's always that general chitter-chatter. However, we here at Melbourne Strength Culture do believe that USAPL are providing us a platform that is better at every level. And as we go through this podcast, you'll see that for yourself. So please, if you could, share this around. Let's get this into as many ears or as many eyes as possible within the Australian community. Thank you. Please like, share, and subscribe. And we'll see you on the next one. Well, firstly, welcome Wade to the Melbourne Strength Culture Podcast. This is a special edition podcast. Before we go anywhere, Wade, do you want to just quickly give us a rundown of who you are, representative of USAPL, but also your experience within the organization and powerlifting in America?
My position, well, first, thanks for having me on. And I know as we have been talking, there's quite a challenge, with timeline and logistics and stuff like that to do this. So I certainly appreciate being part of this. My position is I am in charge of outreach for our international committee. You won't look up Wade Johnson and find me in a position like on the executive committee or anything like that. I'm a senior 2 national level coach. I have coached several national and world competitors. Probably one that you might be familiar with is Jennifer Milliken, who is a 2-time IPF world champion. And if you guys know the big Egyptian guy who is an American citizen now, Ahmed Hassanin, he's going to be the next guy that goes into the 1150 or so. What is that, kilos? 510, 530. Yep. I mean, that I'm spitting that number out as if it were easy, but I mean, you guys saw him at Worlds. If you follow him at all, 3 weeks ago before he deloaded, he did raw 400 kilos for a double and a belt and knee braces pretty quick.
Mama mia.
He's a big son bitch too. Now I'm gonna tell you something. And guys, I'm a big boy. I don't know what you guys know about me. I'm a pretty big boy, but man, he's a big dude. So
crazy.
I have co-directed meets with Jennifer Milliken. Jennifer is our Tennessee state chair, and there are a few things that I do via proxy, but she and I are the meet directors, and we're trying to cultivate things in the Southeast region as well as other meet directors in other states. And so that's not a lot of titles, but I will tell you, it's extremely
a lot of experience. Yeah, for sure. Well, yeah, thank you very much for jumping on board. And I know the community in Australia have a lot of questions, and we're going to go through a lot of those throughout the chat. But we just wanted to start, like, we've obviously spoken off air just before we got on here, and then I spoke to you maybe 2 months ago as well in a group with some Australian representatives. But just the overall direction that USAPL plan on having since moving on from the IPF and all of that sort of stuff, because I find it really exciting, and you're trying to modernize it and change the way it is. But through your own words, sort of what is the overall direction that USAPL want to move with these international federations, and then also the pro series and the pro cards and all that stuff?
Now, I'm not as familiar with the pro aspect as I am with what we're doing internationally. We've on our own podcast, Powerlifting Mastered, we had Josh Rohr, who has helped develop that series we had him on. So I would refer people to that. I'll answer the questions as best I can, but I don't want to tell you wrong. And there's a lot of moving parts with that as well. And I'm not nearly involved with that. But internationally, one of the things that I've said all along, in business, there's two ways to be successful. You can take something that someone is doing currently and try to do it better, or you can take what they're doing and do it differently. And I think because of the circumstances that we're in now, that we're no longer part of, we're no longer the American affiliate for the International Powerlifting Federation, it gives us the unique position to do both. And so what we wanted to do was to change the model. It's tried and true, and what the IPF does, and wish them nothing but good luck. Every representative nation has a nationals, and if you win that nationals and you potentially, are an alternate, you can be part of the 0.5% of your federation and go to a world championship. And we thought that it would be better and offer some more opportunity and inclusivity to do it like what we're doing with you guys, is have a country that lives under the umbrella of USA Powerlifting. Because basically what USA Powerlifting Australia means is your location and that you're part of USA Powerlifting. So when you have your international event, it becomes the Australian Open. So think of it much like tennis or golf, where you have all these opportunities. The more countries we can bring on board to do this, you have the British Open, you have any number of things. We're looking at doing an NAPF type of thing where it's a North American championship, where you have Mexico and Canada involved. So there's any number of ways to go with that, the more nations that we're able to bring on board. The initial goal is like, let's get you guys having meets that you feel good about, and that there's real drug testing, and there is some autonomy between your folks in USA Powerlifting, which I think that the catchword seems to be governance. Yeah. And but I mean, there's a rule, there's rules, there's a standard, and there's a way of doing things, and it's what you guys want as well. So we provide the infrastructure, as far as, like with the website and the rules and the drug testing. And, we have the opportunity, where you guys have your judges that are IPF level or whatever the case may be, where they could potentially be grandfathered in. And, we start drug testing, and you guys can start running meets. It's not like we're going to wait a whole year and hopefully have, an Australian Open. We're hoping that, by spring, all right, that may be for us, we're coming out of winter. I don't know what in the hell's going on where you guys live, but
it's going in.
So
I think the plan is December for our first Open this year. I think that's right. From the back end is what we're trying to aim for. Obviously, the logistics of getting people qualified and how that all looks, we're still working that out. But we are definitely planning on doing one this year. Yes.
Yeah, and so, but the immediate goal is that, hopefully in the next couple of months, you guys are running meets locally via USA Powerlifting and USA Powerlifting Australia. I mean, that's really the nuts and bolts. It's great to have these one-off international events. Everybody's excited about that. What I'm more excited about is that you guys have an opportunity, you guys as gym owners and coaches and team members have the opportunity to have meets that you feel strongly about, that you believe in, and feel like you're self-governing in the manner in which you believe the sport should be ran.
Yep. Yeah. Well, I think we can all, I don't want to speak for the boys here, but I think we're all pretty keen to get
competition back up and running at the grassroots level here in Australia. The last few years, especially in Melbourne, have been lackluster to say the least from a competition standpoint. So definitely,
100%. Like obviously, we're all coaches and our lifters they want comps. Like it's pretty straightforward, but I can obviously speak for our lifters and the broader community. But people just want to be able to rock up to comps. That's obviously why people lift. So it would be great for the next few months to see it all unravel.
Definitely. All right, well, let's get through some of these questions. And I know I broke them down into specific levels of like organization level, and then there's just like competition-based level. And then a lot of it was related, a lot of the main questions that came through were related to like the pro card and the pro series and all of those sort of things. So if there is a better resource for those answers, we can link that, and I'll
I mean, I really felt like Josh did a great job of basically outlining what the structure was going to be. Now, let me say this about the Pro Series. One of the things that we talked about early on when I was part of the discussions is we wanted to have something that was self-sustaining. I think what we have found here in the States, I'm not sure, obviously I'm not sure in other countries, but you would have a pro-am, somebody, a sponsor. When I was with Southern Powerlifting, Louis Simmons would write a check and you would have some winnings. But then once the meet was over, the money was over. So that's not sustainable. It's cool. Don't get me wrong. It's cool, but it's not sustainable. It's not something that we can create a situation where we have multiple meets where the pros are involved. There's a point system and all those things. And then there's a prize at the end. And how we do that annually, year in and year out. And so we feel like, now I'm abridging a lot, and I'm painting with broad strokes here, but we feel like the model that we have is mostly self-sustaining, and hope that will grow as people participate. And I'm sure at some point there will be, people that come on board, sponsorship, whatever the case may be. But that's where we're at currently. And that to me was the most important thing. I'd rather lifters make a little less money, but have more opportunity to make money, and then be compelled to lift in a pro series, and again, what that does is create more opportunity. And those are the things that we were looking at, both with the international aspect of what we're doing and the pro series. Now, the pro cards, that's where it flies off the rail for me. And like I said, I've been, my main thrust the past 3 or 4 months has been the international community, and how to reach out to those people and start what we're doing now, and getting people in countries that want to lift, under our banner. And again, I'm condensing a lot. How do we get them set up to where they can start running those meets? And so the pro aspect is not something that I am as familiar with. So I would refer people, listen to our podcast. It's Powerlifting Mastered, and you'll see where we cover the pro series, and Josh Rohr is the one that does the interview.
Yep. I'll link that down below. That will be the first link in this description, both on YouTube and the audio versions as well.
But give me a moment, because I did speak with Larry. So a lot of what will happen with the pros, that's going to be based on performance. There are some limitations. Obviously there's only so many pro cards that are going to be offered. Now, what that number is, don't quote me on it. I would be lying to you if I said that I knew. But I mean, it's another opportunity for a very elite level lifter, and based on what the credentials are, like for you guys, you're still going through the processes of what is going to be a qualifying total for our nationals, what is going to be a record. All those things are still being worked out. So there's some things yet that will predicate what will make someone a pro, if you will.
Yep.
So there's still time involved in that, but there is going to be pro cards available to Australian lifters, and that's really the bottom line.
Yeah, yeah. It's I think it's a cool opportunity, and I think those international sort of competitions will be a lot, with the opportunity that USAPL is providing, a lot more frequent rather than just the standard world championships. And I know, just off air, do you want to talk about sort of what you touched on just off air, like with the world championships that's currently with the IPF? Do you see that as a viable long-term play for something that you guys are trying to create, or is it going to be?
Well, that's a very good question. It's a very valid question. Out of the gate, no, not immediately, no. In the near future, that remains to be seen. Now, long term, I think it's something that we should do. That's my opinion. But will we do it in the traditional manner where it's an annual event? I don't know, because it's one of those things. I would much rather, if we have 10 countries that are offering an international event, and places that, let's be clear, what about places that people want to go? I want to go to Melbourne. I don't want to go back to Johannesburg, though. Do you? I don't.
Yeah.
I mean, that's nothing against the South African people. I think places that are destinations, I think, are where people want to go. And when you think big international events, you wouldn't have it where I live in Mount Juliet, Tennessee. That, now Nashville, that I'm close to, you could potentially see something like that, but not in Mount Juliet, and I could tell you all the great things about Mount Juliet, but you don't want to go. You don't go. You don't know about it. It's little. I don't want to go.
Yeah.
If I'm going to go to an international meet, there needs to be some grandeur about it. I mean, isn't 100%. That the point? And so what I don't want to see happen is that we work towards doing the same thing that everybody else is doing, and that it takes away from the development of an Australian Open, of a British Open, of the Cup of China, whatever the case may be, wherever we can do these things. And again, because I think that lends to more opportunity. If you can hit the qualifying total and afford the ticket as an international lifter, you have the opportunity to be the Australian Open champion. And what if I become a pro there, and I want to go to London and have a shot at the British Open? I mean, look at the Grand Slam in tennis, and how big of a deal that has become, and how difficult, which I would say is much more difficult than winning a one-off world championship. Becoming a Grand Slam champion is extremely difficult. Now you have pro cards available and prizes and things of that nature. And if we all do our jobs collectively, those opportunities are going to come. Now we're not looking at just 0.5% or 1% of your national team being able to go to an international event. If I can afford the ticket and I can hit the qualifying total, I can go anywhere I want that is offering an international type meet. That creates a much more inclusive base, and I think you'll see more talent, attend these types of meets. I think it only cultivates and grows the sport.
I think ultimately what you're trying to do, and I agree with it 100%, is you're trying to create a professional sport. There's an opportunity to win money. There's an opportunity to really position yourself and pick apart your year, your competitive year, to win money and compete in these more
and go to cool places. I mean, let's face it. And I will rewind this back. The backbone of the organizations, period, USA Powerlifting, period, is the grassroots lifter. The local meets is what this federation is built on, the back and the hard work of the local meets. And it's going to be the same for you guys. And I am equally, look, no one's more excited about, hey, an Australian Open. I'm really pumped about you guys having powerlifting again locally, where you guys live, where you train, where you coach lifters, and being able to cultivate that into local meets and be up and running and do it with real drug testing, real judging, And again, doing so in a manner that you guys believe in and feel strongly about, and feel that when the meet is over, you feel good about what you accomplished.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we can all agree with that 100%.
So I'm going to jump in because I know we had a few people ask this question and a few queries about it, but Robert Wilks will have nothing to do with any of this.
I want to be clear. No.
Good. I knew that was the answer that's coming, but there was a lot flying around on social media.
But here, everything that's flying around, here's what I will do. I'll clarify it for everybody. No.
Crazy. Perfect. That one's out of the way. Nice. Let's go into more of the. Oh no, you go, Charlie.
I was just going to jump in and say, me personally as a lifter, I've been powerlifting for 5 years now, and some of the biggest highlights of my powerlifting were early on in my first sort of 18 months when I did the fitness shows here in Australia, and they had that real big sort of, there's hundreds of people watching, really big vibe. You were super pumped to go, and I kind of was getting really sort of disheartened with how powerlifting was heading, especially in Australia with all through COVID. It just felt like that was the pinnacle and that was it. Like I wasn't going to enjoy powerlifting to that level again. And it's really exciting as a lifter and as a coach that is potentially going to be able to happen again in the next, this year, next year and going forward. So, yeah.
Well, who knows what the opportunity, we have the Arnold here, but my understanding is they do these types of events all over the planet.
Yeah.
Why can't they do it where you guys are? Why can't they?
Yeah. Well,
somebody tell me why not.
We have the Arnold Classic in Melbourne. Typically Pro Raw does the Arnold Classic, but yeah, it hasn't come back since COVID.
Yeah, there's two big fitness expos here in Melbourne throughout the year. So definitely, it used to be on the calendar, and I'm hopeful that it can get back on the calendar because they were fantastic events. And they were real sort of flag poles in the calendar for a lot of lifters. They were great fun.
For what it's worth, when I watch, because this will surprise you, I love watching tennis. I know why you guys are laughing, and it hurts my feelings.
No, I watch the tennis. Don't worry, I watch the tennis.
But what was astounding, knowing what you guys went through with COVID, which was obviously much more difficult than we went, at least in my state. I know other places in the United States where it was really bad, and the lockdowns were long and pretty tedious, for lack of a better term. But as the 2 weeks wore on with the Australian Open this year, it was interesting to see how the crowds kept continuing to grow. And I think that can only be a sign, of what is to come. You've seen England that's, basically said COVID's over and we're moving on. And there have been a couple of other countries that have. I know of some other countries that are still struggling. And, we hope, at some point, regardless of how we feel politically, we gotta come out of this and push forward. And if we're playing tennis in that kind of atmosphere with, as 85% capacity is what was said on our TV stations, then it stands to reason that as we move forward, you're going to see, venues that can operate at closer to capacity and things like that. And that can only mean good things for you guys having these events and fit expos. We were at the Arnold. This was probably one of the smaller Arnolds in recent memory, but there was still a pile of people there. And the powerlifting aspects was very well attended. So the atmosphere, that Charlie was talking about was certainly abundant, where we were at, absolutely. So I think it's coming. I think everybody better brace themselves, because people, once things really truly open up, and we may still be 6 to 9 months, maybe even 12 months in some places on the planet where they're fully open. But when it comes, we better be prepared, because people are going to need that outlet, and they're going to come heavy, and they're going to be fierce about it. That's my personal belief.
I think we all concur with that.
100%.
People want activities. People want that stuff. It will come back. Let's stick on the organization level then. So obviously that was the main question that a lot of people had, and it just leaves a sour taste in our mouth. But obviously that's good that that's been cleared up. But let's talk about the structure of the organization that is USAPL. Australia. I know we would discuss very loosely there about the state chairs and those positions. Do you want to talk us through, obviously I can talk a little bit as myself being one of the state chairs, but
Right.
how that structure is built as it reflects off the American organization?
Well, basically, the structure is something that we really wanted you guys to create that structure, and the only guidance that I really offered Sam, it's going to be Sam, Stacy, and all of a sudden, Vicky, yes, that those three are basically going to be the people that run things for you guys, and then there state chairs, and my only real guidance to Sam when we talked about this initially, and then when I met with them, is that let's start small. I would rather you start small and grow outward as the need arises than to have 20 people and maybe people don't have anything to do. And I know that caused some static with a few folks in some areas, but remember, we are in the infancy, regardless of what the potential may be or what you see. You can tell me all these people are ready to come online, but until I see the tally of those people, we don't know that yet. It's not an issue of not believing. There's a working order with the horse and the cart, and it always stands to reason that the best and most effective way is that horse is pulling the cart. And so we've got to keep, let's break it down. Let's break things down in their simplest form right now and keep it small. And then as the need arises, then you grow, and you grow in a manner. The reason why I told him 3 is that way, if something has to be voted on, there's always a tiebreaker. And then as the need arises, the 3 of them could grow to more people. And as there's more meets, there's more meet directors, there's more lifters, the need may arise to have more states, if you will. I hate to use air quotes, but again, states with that's a big broad area. So, and you may see some of the smaller areas that haven't had as big a participation in the past. Things may change. The thing that I'm finding, excuse me, with COVID is as things open up, you'll see, an area that may grow faster, than it had previously. Now that things have stopped, you basically had a 2-year timeout. Things have changed. People's interests have changed. So that was really the structure, that I suggested, that Dan suggested. Let's start small. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. And in that way, you're growing by need versus, well, we want to have a bunch of people. That doesn't always lend to being successful.
Too many shifts.
Let's create a need. Let's see the need created, and then you make the adjustment outward to that. And so, because basically what we're looking for is for you guys to govern yourselves under, you have full autonomy with us, but you guys are in charge. You're the ones that, we're talking about what to do about records, what about qualifying totals? Those are going to be things that you guys collectively are going to do. I mean, we're not familiar, with, what your top performances are and where they need to be and what would create a nationals. You don't want 6 people there, but I promise you don't want 800 either.
Definitely not. Yeah.
So you got to develop that. And here we are. The beauty of this is that you get to build it in a manner that's from the ground up. The problem with that is that takes time. And so it would be unreasonable for people and unrealistic to think, hey, we've worked on this for 2.5 months, we're ready to go. Well, hold on. There's still a few things to work out, but we're close now to where you can have local events, and those things tend to spawn other opportunities and help give you direction on where you need to go. So it's all right now, it's all about people being patient, participating, and then growing with it, and then we make the adjustments as we go.
Yeah, I think
as much as you're I'll jump in. As much as you're obviously talking about not having too many people too early, the structure as it looks like it's going to be and as it's starting to be definitely is better than what we've had in the past. Because with previous federations, when you strip it back, it's pretty much been one or two people seemingly running everything, which obviously to try and grow a federation, run it in a professional manner just doesn't work. It's like all relying on one person answering emails, organizing things. So even for us, just having state chairs, that's a win. That's definitely, it seems like a much more organized and efficient way to kind of build this thing out. So we're all for it for sure.
Yeah, I'm just going to add on to that. Obviously, you touched on it, but we have three. They're sitting in the national office. That's what the position would be, with Sam, Vicky, and Stacey. And I think with exactly what you said there, being that if there is a need for a vote on anything, that there is a majority ruling, and we can actually have transparency in what is occurring with the decision making, because I think that was probably one of the most frustrating things at every level in some of these previous federations here in Australia. Is most of the time it was just up to one, or as Didier said, one or two people to make a key decision on something, and you could almost get backdoor entrance into certain competitions and all of that just by knowing the right people. And it's just going to completely remove all of that, because all of a sudden now we actually have like this majority ruling. The other thing that I wanted to touch on, because I know that it hasn't been discussed here in Australia yet, like as a group, but I know you guys in America, all of your positions, are they voted in frequent time periods?
So you're talking about the state chairs,
or even on the committees.
Well, now on the committees, like my position, I think that I honestly don't know. Here's what I did. I submitted my resume and my CV and what I wanted to do, which obviously I was interested. I've been talking about the international aspect now for a year, so it was not a secret. So I presume that what happened, but I don't know this for a fact, that this was probably taken to the executive committee and it was voted on. A lot of times state chairs will be voted in. Sometimes they're assigned. I couldn't tell you the reasons why. I'm not privy to that information, and I've never tried to be a state chair for USA Powerlifting. So sometimes there's something in place that they go ahead and assign that position, but most of the time it's voted on.
Yep. Nice. And then the only other thing that we sort of skirted around it, but the position themselves of the state chairs, obviously currently with, as you said, in the infancy, and we don't want to have too many people in there controlling things right now. Certain states control multiple states. So in Victoria, we are also controlling WA and Tasmania just to get things rolling. We're looking for South Australian people to put their hand up for competitions, and I've got some people I've got to contact this week. And then also Queensland is controlling Northern Territory as well. And similar with New South Wales and Canberra, we're looking for people to put their hands up for competitions. But in the initial stages, these state chairs are their role is to grow the sport from the ground.
Right.
Get the referee.
Right. You're in a position of cultivation.
Yeah.
It's finding out what are the credentials of the current judges, and if their credentials are high enough, can they be grandfathered in? And in the interim, we're creating curriculum, if you will, where it can be Zoom or something of that nature, where there can be training. I know that Joanne Craig, because I know drug testing is coming, and I don't want to disappoint you. Here's what I can tell you about drug testing, so we'll just go ahead and broach that, is it will be done. Now, all the things that go along with that, I would be misleading you to answer very specific questions. Now, I will tell you, Joanne Craig is a very, very sharp lady. Not only is she a good friend of mine, but this is what she does for USA Powerlifting. So there will be some curriculum, there will be supplies, all those things are going to get squared away. And at every meet, the rule is that 10% gets tested. So if you have 30 lifters, 3 people, are going to get tested, So, and at my meets, if I, once I do the 10%, if I see someone that I suspect, I mean, does it cost money? Sure. But the integrity of the platform means enough that if there's something that appears to be out of place based on performance or information or whatever the case may be, that lifter's likely to get tested.
Yeah. And I'll just add another layer to that. So currently, I am one of the state chairs, so I have a little bit more information than the average person. Currently, we're looking to get competitions at the local level up and running for May. I think, as Wade is sort of alluding to there, the biggest hurdle that we're currently got is the referees and getting them across and adequately qualified if required or grandfathered in or anything like that. We're working on that. We have the list of referees, especially for Melbourne, that we're now starting the transition of how we're going to get them in. And then also the second hurdle that we've got is involved with the referees, but it is the drug testing officers. I think they're actually called DCOs.
DCOs, correct.
Yeah, DCOs. So that they're the two main things. So this is more for just the community that's listening, that are just holding us from putting out the initial local calendars. And hopefully within the next fortnight, I think we should be able to get those up and running.
Everything's very close.
Yeah, we're very close. So looking roughly for May for those that are interested. And if you're in Melbourne, I can guarantee you'll be wrapped with the communities and the gyms that have put their hand up to come on board initially. There's also some exciting stuff out of WA and also Canberra now looking pretty promising as well. So there's definitely some good times ahead. It's just those referees and the DCOs that are the next hurdle that we have to cover.
Clearly, I'm going to have to, my office is, as you can see, is pretty snug, but I'm going to have to get like a map of Australia, because you're seeing all these places and I'm like, I don't know where that's at.
That's all right. That's all right.
Because I know, I don't know if you guys are familiar with our podcast and all, and it's not going to hurt my feelings if you're not. But the guy that I do the podcast with, Powerlifting Mastered, Chris Elmore, is a great buddy of mine. And he, for his job, obviously that slowed way down to nothing during COVID, but they're starting to travel again. And every time I bring up, when we do any sort of update on Australia or international, he wants there to be a big meet in Perth. Now, I have no idea where Perth is, but I understand from where you guys are, that's far.
It's about 6 hours.
It's a 6 hour
five, 6 hours. Yeah.
Oh, that's not that bad. Well, I mean, it's a 6 hour drive from here to Columbus.
Yeah.
For me to go to the Arnold. So, well, that's not that far. So step up, Perth. Not that far away. So let's make this happen.
Perth,
6 hours.
As I said, I've had a few conversations with some people over there, and I think that time will come. The good thing, the difficult thing with Perth currently is the Premier is, I don't know if it's still, they blocked themselves from the rest of Australia for a very long time. I don't know if that's even open now.
I believe the
attention
borders are still shut.
The borders are still shut. Yeah, I'm not actually sure.
So is that COVID related or?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, their Premier sort of playing by his own rules compared to the rest of Australia, which is it is sad. But as you said initially, like in the next 3, 6, 9 months, however long it takes for everything to be opened up, and we can really start traveling and pushing those things, like these opportunities are going to come. And
well, I know I've seen on the news, I've seen news outlets online where Australia is welcoming travelers.
Yeah.
And,
yep.
You know,
we pretty much are now. Yeah.
Pretty much everyone except WA, Western Australia, which is Perth. Yeah. But the funny thing is,
I did know that, but that's all.
Yeah, we could talk about that for ages. But I think from an organizational level, I think that clears up majority. Rob Wilks is not involved in any capacity and has never been.
No, and never will. Let me be clear about this. I'm speaking, I understand Larry is not here. And I don't know if you've ever listened to me on podcasts before, and I promised that I would be diplomatic and I wouldn't drop F-bombs and everything, but I cannot be any more emphatic about here's who is involved: USA Powerlifting, and that has nothing to do with Mr. Wilks and any of the other things that are going on in that arena. And so everybody can, everybody can relax about that. You've got a lot of people like the committee. Our international committee is so big, I couldn't tell you who all is on it. Here's what I can tell you: people are busting their ass trying to make this happen, and make sure that we do it in a way that is smart and effective and concise. But that rarely does that mean fast. And so it's going to require a modicum of patience. And trust me, that is not my strong suit either. I'm like, WTF, what are we waiting on? Let's get Australia on the road. But the more we talk and the more we do these things, the more that we understand, there's a lot of hoops to jump through. There's a lot of things that we have to make sure that are right on the front end. And who knows, as we go along and more countries get involved, there seems to be a nuance with everybody. And it's like that here in the States, just with the regional aspect of it. So it's not, what I want people to understand is it's going to happen. The timeline is not going to be super fast, so it is going to require some patience, but understand, and you guys are working hard. Trust me, I can't tell you how often Sam and I talk, but it is frequent. I mean, it's basically daily, not always, but basically daily. And there for the first 6-7 weeks, it was daily, multiple times in Zoom calls, or we were on the Facebook Messenger and stuff like that. I've met with Stacy and those types of things, and communicated with a lot of different folks out there. And so I want, people to understand, with these state chairs, nobody's being slighted. We're just trying to make sure that everybody can manage it. And then we get a system that is going to be effective and mobile and moving, and then we start growing. I know that, like I said, I knew that there was some static, and nothing like this is seamless, especially when you build it from the ground up. But a little bit of patience, a little bit of time, and we're going to be kicking some ass. That's really the bottom line.
Yep, we're in full support as well. All right, cool. So let's move on from the organization level. Let's go back to drug testing. I know we touched on it. 10% is going to be the mandatory amount. I think one of the questions that came through was related to how is that going to be paid for and all of that. Something that is actually new for the tested federations here in Australia is that the meet directors actually get pretty much majority of the revenue from entrance and entrance fees. In previous federations, it was just get paid a stipend for running competition.
Well, that's going to be the big difference. And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, that's
Where
fine.
in the old days of other organizations, you would do all the yeoman's work and bust your ass and go to all the expense. And then the federation basically made a majority of the money. We get a sanction fee, and you guys, from there, it's your money. And you do pay for your drug testing. I know that there's some reimbursement with the timeline, but obviously that's easy for me to do because I live in the United States. And we still have to be very practical, and we have to be very deliberate. So I don't know what I would be misleading you if I gave a definitive answer. I will tell you that because I've met with Joanne about this very thing, and I know she's met with Sam as well, and they are working those details out. There is a cost, but there's a cost for you to have the medals and rent the location, but we're not swooping in as an organization. Let's say your meet generated $3,000. I don't know how that compares, to your currency versus ours. We don't swoop in after you've paid for everything and take $2,500 and go, well, feed everybody some cheeseburgers. And that was a great meat, guys. Well, that's bullshit. That's not how you cultivate a healthy situation. Everybody needs to win. We have to have, there's a certain amount of things that have to happen so we can make things work administratively, and there's things that were like, we met with Sam, Ryan Carrillo and I met with him last week, just about some challenges that we're having on the website that we just have to work out. It's all brand new. And, there's a membership fee and all those things. Everybody, there's a revenue stream for everybody, and everybody needs to win on this. And the only way that I can't ask you to bust your ass 3 or 4 times a year to do a local meet and to generate all this capital, and then I swoop in and take the capital. How do you buy new plates? What if you need another combo rack?
Yeah.
Best of luck. Well, get another job. Well, that's horse shit. That's not an effective method of cultivating people that want to run meets under the auspices of USA Powerlifting. That's well, it's, this is my opinion, but I feel like a lot of people feel the same way. That would be asinine. So if you guys are running these events, and then you can fund things like, hey, we're growing so fast, we need another bar, we need another set of plates, we need another rack, we need a PA, we need a TV. You have the capacity to do those things and to pay your staff and to, actually make a little money. Nobody's going to get rich doing this, but if you're going to work this damn hard, there should be something at the end of it where you go, hey, not only do we have a great meet, we made a little bit of money, and I can buy the gym something, or, we can have chicken sandwiches instead of cheeseburgers, whatever the case may be.
We joke about it, but that was actually the reality of running some of those, the other drug tested federations in Australia, the reality of that. And it's probably one of the things that I'm most excited about. We've discussed it earlier with the grassroots, the whole idea of like USAPL is built on the backbone of grassroots participation, really.
Anything worthwhile.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's be clear. Anything worthwhile that has a membership base, you're 99% down is why you exist. I have been fortunate enough to lift on national teams, but when all this came up about drug testing and we should become WADA compliant, I was pissed, because what that means is for me to go to a world meet and us to be world WADA compliant, I'm selling out my membership. I'm never going to be for that.
Yeah.
And neither should you. I'm never going to be for a situation where we take a chosen few and we shit on everybody else. I'm not for it. I'm never going to be for that. And these are the people, this is where your volunteer base comes from. This is where your spotter and loaders are cultivated from, and your judges and all those things that you must have that are integral for you guys to be able to run events. So it just stands to reason. Every history tells us you cannot tax yourself into, flourishing.
Yeah.
We've learned that. It happens over and over and over. When we have a situation where everybody's getting a piece of the pie, even if it's a little piece, we all seem to be much happier, and we work harder for the next time that pie comes around. And that's the only way to do that, is to cultivate it in a manner where everybody's in for the win. If we take a hit from time to time, and you will, then so be it. But it's not because we came in organizationally and took all the funding away from you after you guys did all the work. That's bullshit.
Yeah. And I think, you go, Didier.
I was going to say, I really think as we look to obviously grow this federation in Australia and just powerlifting as a whole, if there's other gyms, because a lot of this stuff is new to people, not everyone's aware of what we're talking about right now. If there's other gyms who've previously hosted competitions in other federations, I think it's a pretty easy sell once this thing gets off the ground to gym owners that you can do exactly what you used to do, but this time you're going to take away some money from you. You're not going to lose money by hosting a meet. Or if there's a newer gym, a smaller gym who not sure if they want to start hosting comps why would it's a lot, once again, it's a lot easier sell for them to want to invest the time and energy into it, because there's something there for them to be gained. Of course, we enjoy hosting comps. It's part of our community, our members, but at the end of the day, if we want to do this thing multiple times a year, if our business can make money from that, like that's what's going to grow the sport. The sport is grown, and the sport, as you're talking about at the grassroots level, if there's not gyms that want to host lots of comps, there's no federation. So if you're incentivizing gyms, that's how we grow the sport.
And the another beauty of that, another layer just to add, just so we're all on the same page for the people that are listening, the economics of running what will become a USAPL competition or USAPL Australia competition is probably looking at 3 to 4 times better from an economic standpoint for the gym itself. The other thing that I do want to say with that, if you are interested in running USAPL Australia competitions, please either reach out to myself or somebody in the national office, and I can get you in the right conversation, because they are exciting opportunities, and they will come forward more regularly. So I think this federation is going to flourish once we can get it off the ground, because at every level that I like to look at it, there's 3 levels that I look at it. There's the lifters level. We can discuss some of the rule books and all that sort of stuff. I think the drug testing is the biggest draw card for the lifting level. We're actually going to have a fair competition with adequate drug testing standards that are requirements for the federation. When you look at it in the meet director level and all those businesses and people that are putting their hand up to run meets, making the economics work in their favor is going to benefit them. And I think that does improve the situation with why the comp calendar is so scarce currently. It's because the meet directors don't want to run the meets because they're not worthwhile for them to run. And then finally, when you look at it from the organization level, which we discussed in the first half of this, I think the fact that the national office has a majority ruling, state positions are going to be voted in, all of these sort of things just seem to be the decisions that need to work for this organization to move forward and flourish and grow. So I think from those 3 levels, this thing can only improve and grow our situation here in Australia with powerlifting. So it is an exciting time, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun watching it grow and flourish, because I think it's well needed.
Just to
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, just to give you an idea, Wade, of like how things have been as long as we've all been involved in powerlifting for the last 5 years or so. Like people will ask us, like maybe newer clients or friends, oh, so you're doing a competition. So they're doing drug testing. And it's always a bit like, oh, yeah, sometimes, not really, kind of. But like the whole thing is we're drug tested powerlifting. But you ask around, oh, have you been drug tested? Have you been, like, people who are pretty good lifters? It's like, well, who's getting tested? Like it's this whole facade of drug tested powerlifting, but where's it happening? Like we just don't see it. It's very rare that you see someone getting drug tested. So obviously for the lifter, you can either go compete against people on drugs, or you can compete in a federation that actually does testing. Like for the lifter, for the experienced lifter, that's great. Like it makes it fair. That's what it's all about.
Well, and let me say this. I have lifted in numerous federations, and I have been chairman of the board for a federation that didn't test. It wasn't about how I felt personally about my status. I was asked to come on board to help them cultivate something and to do something. I did my job, and then I move forward. The great thing about the sport of powerlifting is you have a venue in about any scenario, whether it's raw with wraps, single ply, multiply, all the plies, tested, non-tested. It's like going to a hamburger restaurant. You know, you pick what you want, but at the end of the day, it's all a cheeseburger. So, you know, I want to do things in the manner where we are promoting a safe, a well-ran and tested and as fair a platform as possible. That is the goal with all this. And for the other places that do things differently, you have a venue for that. But at our venue, USA Powerlifting Australia, they're going to test, and the standards are going to be high. The judging will be strict, but also fair. And these meets are going to be well ran. You know, we have we've been running, we try to run about every 4 months, like a 30 lifter meet locally in our little place. We start at 9 o'clock. At 2:30, the truck is loaded. We're leaving to restore my gym. And so what that does is when you're that efficient, the meet goes well, testing is done, and people can be on their way back home. Or like in our case, we're drinking beer because that's what we do. And I think everybody should, but that's just my opinion. But the point is it becomes an enjoyable situation. You're not deadlifting at midnight, because the meet director doesn't have their shit together.
Yeah.
And so that's why you have standards. I don't mind being at a meet all day. If there's 120 lifters and everybody's working their ass off, hey, party on. But for the typical, local level, you can run a very efficient meet. You can make a little bit of money and feel good about not only what you've done, but what you've provided, which is a fair and true drug-free platform.
Yeah, absolutely love it, without a doubt. The only other question that came through from the drug testing, which I'm assuming is you're going to say we're still working out the finer details, is out of competition testing. How does that look in America currently? And
well, I will tell you, I have been out of meat tested twice in my own gym. I had no idea. The person came in and I'm like, who the hell are you? I'm here to test you. And so now how the mechanics of that are going to work in Australia, I would be lying to you. I'm sure that is something, again, I have to defer to Joanne. I am sure she will develop that. And then once you have DCOs that are trained and there's a schedule created for that, I think that will occur probably fairly quickly. But, again, I can't speak
specific.
Of.
Yeah, currently, which I thought that would be the answer anyway. But just so that everybody knows that
it is going, I promise you, it is going to happen.
Yeah, exactly. Because that
maybe just
come up a couple of times. Yeah.
Maybe just as a rough kind of guideline, what for you hosting local comps there, what's it costing you per test? Just obviously.
Boy, that is a fair question. That's something that Jennifer is handling. But I want to say about, I don't know. We tested 3 at the last competition and it was just under $300.
Yeah. So the way it works, Didier, is there's a rebate if you get it in within a certain time frame, which I think is by the Monday morning. If you host a Saturday comp, it's Monday morning. We've worked out the subtleties of it, but we haven't got the specifics. It's going to come out with the rebate of about 120 Australian dollars, I believe. Again, don't quote me on this. These are just some of the rough figures per test. So if you're testing 4 people in a comp of 40, $480 for the drug testing. And then again, there's a small fee to USAPL to run an affiliated competition with them. And then everything else is coming to the meet director to move around how it's required to run the competition and run that standard. Again, you're probably looking at 3 to 4 times the amount of monetary value higher than what we were previously making with said other federations that we just won't talk about. So it definitely still works comfortably within the meet director's favor to run bigger, more successful competitions. Yeah.
Well, I'll put it that we just started running local competitions, Jennifer and I. And I'm now, this is the other thing we're trying to do too. We're trying to create more an experience than just a meet. That seems like a really, a cheesy play on words, but I assure you, based on the money I'm spending, that is not true. So we're not really in the black on the meets, but we also own the equipment now. So what I'm saying this for, and what I'm implying and is these local competitions are going to be what you cultivate to create, the things that you're going to need. Does, PAs, TVs for scoring, judges lights, ample warm-up equipment. That seems to be the challenge for meet directors is having enough equipment for warm-ups, depending on what your situation is. So, it helps. Even though we're only doing 30 lifter meets, we're generating enough capital that we're paying for the things that we're buying each meet. So it creates an infrastructure for when we do bigger meets, if that makes any sense to you.
Yep.
As opposed to, I'm trying to work a part-time job because I got to buy an ER rack or some shit like that. You're able to generate those funds, and I have done that, trust me.
Yeah.
So if you've ever seen the tour of my gym, you're like, well, now I know why he doesn't have any money to retire with. But those are the things that I want to encourage all those potential meet directors out there, that you'll create a revenue stream from these where you can at least start creating infrastructure. And then as this grows, then you guys can depend on each other that are in at least some reasonable proximity. If you've got 10 people that own a combo rack and a set of plates, you can run a big ass meet, pretty quickly.
Yeah, the other thing I'll just add to that is national office, and I'm sure a majority of the other gyms that have come on board would be more than happy to help newer clubs in starting up. It's going to be a big push that we have once we get this initial calendar out, is to getting some of these newer clubs up and running in the capacity to be self-reliant as well within their meets by probably 2 to 3 meets in. So that's already a discussion that we're having. So it definitely works in favor. All right, cool. The last few questions, I think maybe we'll just keep them as short answers and then wrap these up, because a lot of them don't require in detailed discussion. But another one that came through was, and I actually haven't looked into this, but are juniors, the under sub 23 category, are they now no longer part of USAPL's structure?
Oh, no. I mean, the juniors, and I don't know what has changed. I know that we went back to the traditional weight classes.
Yep.
But I know 20 to 23 still exist. I don't know what sub junior, I don't know if any of that has changed, but I know we're still doing youth classes and stuff like that.
Yep.
Because we're in the meet. We're running a meet next month and we have youth lifters.
Yeah.
Which talks about, the increments that you guys were talking about with weights. It's typically always 2.5. I think with bench press with youth lifters, you can do 1 kilo increments.
Yep.
Otherwise it's 2.5.
Yep. Will there be different standards for Australian national level lifters? Yes, we definitely won't be in line with the USAPL standards.
Yeah, I mean, and that's something that you guys will have to make a determination. Well, but I mean, here's the cool thing about that. You set a standard and you'll know real quick. I mean, even with Olympic weightlifting here in the United States, after about every 3 years, they review the process. Up until COVID, I mean, we were having nationals, 1,200 to 1,400 lifters, and the qualifying standard is pretty damn high, so you guys are it's going to start small. It's going to start low, but I think that quickly will change.
Yeah. But I think the crux of it is, we will not be using the USAPL.
Well, that wouldn't be fair out of the gate either.
Yeah. I'm currently living in Australia, but I'm an international student. Can I join USAPL and compete? The answer to that is yes. I've got that cleared off with Sam. So yes, if you are an international student or just an international living here in Australia, you can definitely still sign up and compete under USAPL Australia, and also go all the way through to nationals as well. That's fine. Do you have to qualify for every year at nationals? Again, that's something that we need to work out. What's the current?
And that's really something. I mean, we have a rule, out of the gate. That's something that you guys should, as an organizationally within the confines of Australia, that's something that you guys will have to sort out initially. You can go, I think you go by the rule that USA Powerlifting uses. It's like, I think it's every 2 years, and from there, I'm a little cloudy on it, but there's a qualifying standard.
Yep.
And that's what I would suggest you adhere to, of course.
Yeah. So again, it falls under that category. It's something that Australia can sort of set our own rule books on, so to speak, and it's something that we haven't fine-tuned yet. However, with a lot of these questions, we have them on a database now, and once we have set answers, we'll definitely be going public with them from national office as well. So that's definitely one that we will have more answers for probably within the next month, I would say. What happens if you win nationals? Well, this is where the international and the pro series, but I will pass that link on in the bio. That will all be in through there. Pro cards, are there allocated spaces for pro cards? That was discussed. That something that you guys have are still fine tuning as well. The other one, the other one would be, I don't know if you can talk about this openly currently, but what other countries have either joined or are you in detailed discussion with creating this international arm with?
Well, right now there are several that I'm talking to. No one has officially signed on. There's a lot of discussion. So what we're finding is the biggest challenge in some of this is language barrier, more so than the time differences, and making sure that they understand the verbiage that I'm using. And the biggest thing, there's the two biggest hurdles is making sure we have judges and that there's a willingness, to get the drug testing done and to have trained DCOs. And so that's what we're in the process there. There is potential. It's probably not going to be this year. It's going to take a little more time, just with how the calendar worked with other federations. We are looking at England. There have been discussions with them. Like I said, we're developing a plan for an NAPF, a North American powerlifting type situation. I'm in discussions with some of those folks and even some Central America. I will tell you, I won't tell you who just yet. And it's not about it being a secret. It's just, we want to make sure that we make the connections. We do all the things that we need to do logistically before we go, hey, we're going to bring these people on board, because it may not happen for one reason or another. But I will tell you that there are 3 other locations that Sam is going to be helping me with, that he has contacts in. And so the thing is that those things, as you have seen from the inception of talking to Australia in the beginning, which I reached out about 3 months ago. That's what this is. A lot of things have transpired. There's been tons and tons of work done, but it's taken us 3 months to get to this point.
Yep.
So, and we speak, other than, all 4 of us have accents. They're just different. We speak English. And while some of these other countries speak English, there are some challenges. So in some of them, the COVID protocols are still in place that are, there's all sorts of different hurdles right now. So I don't want to be aloof by any stretch. I will tell you we're talking to many. Yep. And we've reached out to some. There's some of the countries that, for lack of a better term, are state sponsored, if you will, where the elite lifters are getting a stipend and stuff like that. And that creates a challenge. They don't want to give up that stipend, and I understand. And so, we'll see. It's one of those things. I think what we will see when Australia, under USA Powerlifting Australia is running events, I think that will spur, the interest of other people and go, okay, they're actually doing it. A lot of people are going to hold Australia's a really big place. And so when they see that you guys are running events, I think that's going to be a thing where that will cascade. It will be slowly initially, but it does look promising. That I can tell you.
Yep. Perfect. Well, that's pretty much everything. Again, there are some extra questions on here that once we have the answer, we will be public with it. And I'll make sure that you can find that either through our socials, or you could follow USAPL Australia on Instagram as well, to keep up to date with all of those updates. Hopefully we can get these first batch of local comps out for May. that's what we're pushing for at the moment. So we're about 8 to 9 weeks away. So we're close. And for those that are waiting and sort of been in the frustrating position that has been the calendars here in Australia, the time is coming. It will come again, right, and it will flourish. But yeah, I think we'll leave that there. Anything else you want to say, Wade, at all?
Well, I really, first and foremost, what I love, let me share a story with you. I have been fortunate enough to visit 4 continents, and I've said this before on different shows. And I'm not talking about 4 states or 4 countries, 4 continents. And I have had a cheeseburger and French fries on all 4. And you know what it tasted like? Cheeseburger and French fries. And what I will tell people, regardless of what we've gone through in the last 2 years or any other things that are going on in the world, we all share a common bond that is twofold. We love strength sports and humanity. And I always feel like, I tell people this all the time, we're power lifters. It's what we do. It is not who we are. However, the manner in which we pursue strength and the things that we're doing, like right now, that is indicative of who we are. And good will always come through in the end. And when people are working together to do good things and do humanitarian things, coming together, you know, for the sake of people doing strength, we share more in common than we are different. We sound a little different, but if I had a little bit of an accent that sounded like you would think I was Australian, and I'm right here just outside of Nashville, Tennessee. What I'm saying is we share a more common bond than we do anything differently, even though we're separated, you know, by geography and all the weirdness that's going on in the world. So I encourage people to be patient with one another, especially as you guys are growing this from the ground up and it's in its infancy. And then we are charged with taking care of each other. So share those cheeseburger and French fries and enjoy this. This ride does not last for forever. So let's enjoy it. Let's do something good with it and make it something that we're proud of and that we can share with one another. And its legacy, I don't know, you guys are clearly younger than I am, but you know, eventually you're going to have kids if you don't have them. And your legacy is the human that you are today for those kids. And that is the future of our humanity and what we do as strength athletes. And so let's do the right thing, and let's continue to work together. Let's put out a great product, and let's have some fun. Let's, after all the bullshit we've been through for 2 years, you guys more so than me, I look forward to a time when I can belly up to a bar with you guys and go beer, and let's see who the strongest is, and let's have a beer. What else is there? I think that's about as good as it gets. For me, that's as good as it gets. I need nothing else.
Absolutely.
So that's what I'll leave you with.
We'll share you a couple of beers. Don't worry about that. We're all about beers. Thank you very much for jumping on and being transparent. It is a fresh flavor here in Australia for Powerlifting Federation. So thank you very much. We do appreciate it. If you have other questions, you can just send them directly to me or someone in the national office, and we'll endeavor to get the most accurate answer for you currently. And that's it. Thank you very much. And also, check out that episode from Powerlifting Mastered. It will be the first link in the bio related to the Pro Cards and Pro Series and all of those sort of things as well. So that's it. We'll wrap it up there. Thank you very much, Wade. Thank you.
All right. Thanks for having me, guys.
Thank you, Wade. Cheers.